Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Man's No Bull Beer Reviews. Today I have another beer from Maine Brewing Company out of Freeport, Maine. This beer is called, just says Spring India Pale Ale, which definitely is very fitting with their very plain aesthetic on their labels and everything. And all their other beers are just dinner, lunch, mo, you know. They're very simple names, very simple labels. One of the reasons why I love them, but the biggest reason is they make fantastic beer. But I love that the labels are super non-assuming, like their beer is too. But anyways, like I said, this is an IPA. This one is 6.5 ABV. Doesn't say what hops are in it. There's just a quick description. It says, spring is our take on an American IPA tailored for days when we start looking forward to warmer weather. We blend iconic American hops with new varietals. Enjoy this beer fresh, but especially around the vernal equinox, which I think is interesting because you hear that, and I'm filming this in like not the middle of May, but not the very beginning. It's May 9th. This beer, the bottle on date on this is after the vernal equinox, so I think it's very strange that they say that, but I guess it makes sense that they make a couple after, just, you know, so it's still through spring, but it's just funny that it says enjoy it on the vernal equinox. And I guess if they made it before the vernal equinox, it wouldn't even be spring, which is interesting. But I'm really excited to drink this because I love Maine beers, and every time they make a new one, I always seek it out, and I'm never, ever disappointed. So I have pretty good faith that that'll be the case here, too, but we'll see. Wow, that's very carbonated. As you can see, it pours a like a translucent darker golden to orange color, because you can see my finger through the back end, but it's definitely not like clear. It's still cloudy, with about 2 fingers worth of a really fluffy white head. That smells good. There's a lot of peach in that. And so I read the description online earlier today, and I remember it being mostly old school hops. I know there was some Cascade, Amarillo, and Simcoe, and I think Equinaut, and then one other one I can't remember. But it smells like definitely towards the tropical end. It honestly reminds me of like a super clean Fatheads beer, which I would say generally most of their stuff is like Fatheads. They're great West Coast style or traditional style IPAs. Their stuff is probably slightly less aggressively bitter, but it's still really similar. Wow. That's really interesting. So this is like 6 weeks old. I'm just curious if time has changed this a little bit. If not, then that's perfectly fine because this is good as hell. But it's very mellow in the hot flavor. It's like incredibly balanced and super crisp. It's actually, I guess, you know, it really goes into what I was just saying. Was it reminds me of a good Fatheads IPA, which I shouldn't use good as a descriptor because they're all good, so there's really no need to use it. But it reminds me of a Fatheads IPA, but not as aggressively bitter. The thing that I love about their IPAs, one, they're not hazy. Two, they're always absolutely perfectly clean. Except one time I had a bottle of dinner that had some diacetyl in it. That was one time only. Obviously they fixed it. But that's one time out of like 100 different bottles I've had from them. So, I'll cut them a break for that. But every IPA that they make, the hop profile is significantly different. And I think you get that way more with these type of clean IPAs than you do with the hazies, because the hazy ones, you end up getting a lot of like the general plant matter flavor and not really. There's also some of the individual hop character, but it's not as bright because it's fighting against that general like plant matter character. But so the last review I did of these guys was I think it was the newest one they made before this, which they've made a couple times since then, which is awesome. Excuse me, because I thought it was going to be a one-off. It's called Woods and Water, and that reminded me of the first time I had My Bloody Valentine from AleSmith, like forever ago. I got a growler of it like the day it came out, and it was so good. It just reminded me of like walking through a forest where someone planted like coniferous trees, like pine trees, and orange trees, like in the same patch of ground, like in the same forest. It was just super citrusy, but super like piney and not necessarily dank, but piney at the same time. And that Woods and Water really reminded me of that because it was really clean, and I got both of those flavors. This, it's really kind of the opposite of that because it's not pulling me in any direction at all. Like, I'm not really getting a lot of citrus. I'm not getting a lot of dank character. Not really getting a lot of like tropical or earthy or floral. It's just like in this tight little pocket of all of those things, and none of them are escaping to be like a front runner in the beer. But the beer itself is absolutely fantastic. It's so well done. It's like a lot of people would say this isn't even an IPA because the bitterness isn't that high, and there's no like really strong predominant hop flavor. It's all kind of a balance of a bunch of different things. It's so weird because if I try to pick out those different things, like I get a little bit of a floral character. I do get a little of like an orange rind. There's a little bit of a peach character. A slight dankness. Like it really is a mashup of all of those things in a good. I usually say mash, like mishmash. It's not like that. I mean a mashup in a good way of all those hops. But none of them is sitting in the driver's seat. And it balances absolutely perfectly with the nice biscuity, bready malt bill. I know when I poured it, I said it was like really carbonated, but the carbonation level was absolutely perfect on this. Their beers are always a little pricey comparatively, but if you want stuff that's absolutely flawless and you know that you're not taking a risk anytime you buy one, as long as it's fresh, of course. But they do bottle date, so if it's not fresh, it's on you or on the bottle shop. That's what I always look for, is breweries that I have zero reason to believe that I might be screwed over and not get my money's worth of what I'm buying. Those are the breweries that I constantly go back to. I don't need to taste it before I buy it. Any of the other ones where I have to get a draft before I know if it's going to be good or not, I just don't worry. I just don't worry about it. It's not worth it. But these guys kill it every single time. This is another amazing example of how you can still make an awesome IPA and not be hazy and not be super bitter and not be super juicy, whatever. It's just an amazing beer all around, and I can't wait till they come out with another one because I'm sure it's going to be a banger. Obviously, but what I've said, this is absolutely a buy for me. I think this was like $8 maybe. But that was at a bottle shop that is kind of expensive, so you might be able to find it for a little less than that, but it was absolutely worth the money. Great, great beer. So I think that's all I got on this one. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to doing the next one. Thanks.